Podcast, the show where we talk to business owners about their entrepreneurial journeys. Today we've got Marcus Trofimov from Silverstone Composites in Silverstone on the show, and it is a really good episode talking to him about his entrepreneurial journey, talking about his interests in motorsport, and can't wait to share this one with you.
Cheers, guys.
Marcus, welcome to the show. You're finally in the box. How is it?
It's good. It's quite warm in here, but it's exciting. You've been discussing this project for a long time now, and you've been on my case to get me in the building, in the box. And no, it's exciting. It's been incredible watching your journey, how you've grown this into what it is, and hopefully long it continue for you boys.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers. Have you always been entrepreneurial?
No, not really. So probably from the early stages, I left school, went straight into my career, which was composites, carbon fibre manufacture. And I went in as a trainee, and I just thought I'd be really working for companies and just grow up, go in those ladders and grow within the businesses and hopefully be in a management position when I got to a certain age. But I think I was about 21, and I realised that actually I could probably do something more. And then started learning backgrounds of the companies, financials, and then understanding, right, what do I need to do and what do I need to learn to be able to start my own business? Yeah. And then that's when the entrepreneurial aspect of me came out, and then I just became hungry. Because once I knew how much money these businesses were making from each individual, I then looked at the maths and the analytical aspects of those businesses, and then looked at their structures of going, right, how much does an individual make for the business and how much are you paying that person? And the variables for me weren't adding up correctly. So that then triggered me then to go, right, I want to start my own business up.
And was there sort of a time, how was your upbringing to that moment? Was there any entrepreneurs in the family or anything like that, or was it?
No, so really an odd one. I was always inspired by my dad, because my dad was a mechanic, then got to management level within World Rally. And he always inspired me because I thought he'd climbed quite a ladder, but then realised he was just a manager within ProDrive, which was phenomenal. He grew that ladder. But no, and then I looked back a bit further and hadn't realised. So my grandfather on my dad's side was in the Special Forces in World War II, big leader, like major. So he was in the French Resistance, and then he was in Burma, sorry. And he was there for, I think, about 2 or 3 years, and he documented his whole journey whilst he was there, and we've created a book from it. And they say about the skip of the generation, I believe probably maybe my dad and my uncle maybe skipped their generation aspect, but more so landed back at me in terms of entrepreneurial and that structure and that drive and that passion towards people, because that's what I could see in his diaries and stuff. It was all about inspiring people as a team and pushing them into war and bring the spirits up and stuff. So I think that's why I didn't know about it until actually my grandfather passed away and we found his diaries and stuff. And then my uncle and my dad sort of told me what he achieved. I think it probably stems from there, really, without even realising.
And the motorsport aspect as well, is that sort of always been around?
That's my father. So my dad was from Newcastle, and he actually moved down to Silverstone to pursue his career in motorsport. So he helped run all the World Rally programs when he moved down to Silverstone and was based at the circuit. So I'm born and bred Silverstone, lived and breathed at the track from a very young age, and just loved race cars or rallying, any aspect of motorsport. Really enjoyed it.
Excellent. So in terms of running your own business and everything like that, at what age was it that you sort of took the leap, if you like?
Yeah, so it all started from about when I was 21, not the leap, but the understanding of what I needed to learn to have a business. So what did I need to go away and get in my locker, and my understanding of when I start my business, how am I going to do it? And what I realised is that I just needed to build up my network so that I had people in my corner. So when I started up, I could get support. So what I did for probably 2 or 3 years is I worked for my competitors for a period of time, but I learned as much about my competitors as possible to see how they were running their businesses, what structures they had, what processes, how do they employ people, their financials, everything. And all what I really learned early on was everyone was just copy and paste of each other. So it was working, but the problem is with that is that it became copy and paste. there was nothing new. So I was like, well, how could I make a more profitable business, working less hours and looking more after the people and the structure and be more process driven? So I was like, well, if I can do that background work for another company, implement sort of accreditation, so like aerospace and ISO, into other businesses and learn that structure, when I start my business up, if I start it on that foot, I'll be almost like years ahead of my competition.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. So I got to all of that learning, and then I implemented it and started my own business. So I was 25 and I had to raise capital. The biggest problem when doing that in my industry is nobody signs contracts. So there is no forecast. So when somebody says business plan, it's, well, there is no business plan. It's purely on the basis of that we've got to deliver parts in a short amount of time to a high quality. And that's purely based off trust and repeatability as a supplier. I'd done that for so many of my competitors that it was easy that I know I could deliver that. But having the trust of the customers to do it in your own shop is difficult. Then trying to find an investor that's going to actually cough up that sort of a large amount, which I needed around anywhere from 180,000 to 200,000 to start up. That how do I convince somebody to offer that money up almost for free? I just became very fortunate. I had an angel investor that invested not necessarily in the business aspect, but he said it's more the individual in me. He believed me that I'd done all the learning and got things all ducks aligned, and he offered me the money. So then we started Silverstone Composites up almost 9 years ago now, and it was incredible journey. We managed to borrow the money. We paid him back in 18 months, as well as running the business, and then we bought him out a further 2 years later. Fully out of the business.
For when it comes to the investment side, what would you suggest to someone if they want to get to investment? How will they get it?
Don't do what I did. So I was very fortunate to find an angel investor that invested the money into me, but I didn't put a shareholders agreement. It was all based off a handshake. And what I found on very early on is that those rules can change based off the individual. So that he was incredible to invest that money into me, but when it got to certain milestones, because we hadn't got nothing written down, he sort of changed his mind.
Right.
Which was fine, because naturally as an investor, you're investing your own capital into something. You want to see the largest return as possible. So he was smart. He knew what he was doing. But my naivety of just wanting the money to start my business up is it cost me more than it should have. But we got him out at the right time, and he helped me get on my journey. So without him, I wouldn't be where I am. And equally, we remained friends thereafter because we got to an agreement we both agreed on. So don't do that. So if you are going to go and invest in them, make sure you've got a clear plan and have a shareholders agreement straight up from your investment parties of what they want, what you want, and what milestones you're going to achieve, and have a real nice path of that set out, and sign an agreement. Do not do anything on a handshake because you can't trust anybody. That would be my biggest suggestion, and that's what we've done moving forwards.
Sorry, where did you find people like that? Is it just sort of going to networking things or anything, or what's?
Yeah, so it was really random. I'd gone through quite a few investors to get to this particular one. So I'd met a lot of people that were very interested in investing in me, but actually they weren't when it came down to nitty gritty. Randomly, I was working a weekend shift and I was helping my ex-wife's granddad, who was a builder, and it was at a nice place over in Leckhampstead, local to here, and it was converting barns, and the owner's wife came out and approached me, and I just started talking, and I just shared my idea of I want to start my own business up and I just need some investment. She said, oh, my husband's a stockbroker in London and loves investing in young entrepreneurs like yourself, so maybe you should have a conversation. So I actually invited him over to the previous employee. I showed him around the factory and just sort of gave him a bit of a Dragon's Den spiel. And I think that afternoon we discussed the money. When did we want to do it? And I said, this is how much, and we'd do it as soon as possible. And I think 3 weeks later, he'd given me a percentage of the money into the account, and we got the business registered, and we had secured a unit down at Stoke Brewing. So it happened quite fast. So I think if you've got a clear plan and path of what you want to do, somebody will come along at those right milestones in time. I think you can go through lots of investors before you find the right one, and I was very fortunate. But I think that's the same for everybody.
I feel like you're being quite modest with that. I think that you as a person, you're quite personable, and I think that you rely on the sort of your relationships with people, and I think that back then, even at that point, even before you'd been a business owner, you must have had that personable touch with that person so that they, invested in you.
Yes. So for me, it's like I will always deliver. That's something that's in life in general, that if you want me to do something, I'll do it, and I'll never back out of it. So I guess I came across in such a manner that he felt confident in what I was saying, that I could deliver it. And I was doing it. So I was generating other companies £3 to £4 million worth of business with my bare hands, with a team of people. So it wasn't like I was bluffing him, that this was something you can invest in. There was more than enough market share in F1 to go and get more business. And I'd built up the relationships with all those guys who worked in F1 and the trust and the reassurance that I could deliver. That it'd be in somebody else's factory, or it'd be in the factory that I own myself. Yeah. So I'd done all the groundwork. I'd done all the legwork. I had the plan in place. I just needed some capital. I know I could deliver, and I guess that won him over, that this was only going in one direction.
Yeah, I know it's a bit of you mentioned it earlier, but you said when you started, obviously you worked with your competitors. I think I really like the concept of that. What would you suggest to someone who just goes straight into a business? Because when I first started my production company, I didn't work for anyone else, and I started straight away. And people who I was with saying, "Why don't you work for other people first?" And I just wanted to get straight into it. I can definitely see the value in what you've done. What would you suggest to someone who just wants to go straight into it, the first thing to do?
So in any business, the more you can learn about the sector or the environment you're going to be in, the better. So it doesn't matter if you've got 10 years or 1 year. It really doesn't matter. As long as you're focused and dedicated on that one thing, you'll be successful. But if you waver off and you think, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, then it won't work. So it has to be dedication in one direction. It has to be focused. I became obsessed with carbon fibre composites. It became my hobby, because I knew if I wanted to deliver the best components, I needed to have the best technology, the best processes. I had to have the best of everything. So I did as much research as I possibly could around that subject. But equally, I also wanted to be the best business in this environment. So I then wanted to learn what my competitors were doing. But rather than treat them as competitors, now we work together. Because again, without them, I wouldn't be where I am. I learned so much within those companies. It's almost, I wanted to repay the favour of, thank you very much for the time and money invested in me. If I ever have too much work, I want to sub it back. And then it goes back to the people in your network, is that if you're going into a business on your own, get as many people around you as quickly as possible, because you cannot do this alone. Yes, you'll have the ideas, you'll have the creativity, and you'll have the positivity of that you can deliver something. You can't do it alone. The sooner you realise that, the better. That's your network and your collaborative individuals that you can get in a room together, you'll solve problems a lot quicker, and you'll get to really good outcomes.
So let's sort of segue into what are composites, and what does Silverstone Composites do?
Yeah, so it started off originally, composites is carbon fibre components. Probably 85% of an F1 car is made from it. We were very much going to be staying in that sector, motorsport. It's what I worked in for so long, and I was very passionate about it. So I wanted to be able to deliver a service. So when we initially started Silverstone Composites, it was a build-to-print manufacturer. And that means that they supply you the designs, the material, pretty much everything to do the job, bar the labour. So we technically, at the initially aspect of Silverstone Composites, were just like a labourer to F1. They would sub-work to us. We'd then produce the parts, deliver them back, and they would pay for that labour. I never wanted to be that for a long period of time, because you just almost get used and abused. I wanted to be able to offer more. So it would be consulting, or turn into a single source solution. So it's taking their ideas, or helping with their ideas of CAD or Sketch, taking that from them and giving them a full single source solution from start to finish. And that's what we sort of did within a 4-year period. And what we do is we take those ideas from some pen to paper, and we'll deliver them from start to finish and give them the sort of the products. But we won't just do that using their methodology. We tend to have input from the very beginning, and when they're designing these parts to deliver to their race teams, is that we'll give feedback very early on in the quoting stages saying, have you thought of X, Y, and Z before we overcome initial problems? We can actually overcome them before we deliver those parts, before they go to production. So saving them a lot of money, time, and then repeatable parts that could do if we just followed their design flaws.
There's obviously your interest in motorsport and F1 and that sort of side of things. Did that have a main sort of effect on you niching down into F1? Because I know that there's lots of composites companies around. Obviously, there's like supercars, there's aerospace, there's maritime, that sort of stuff. So
yeah, so so when I worked in composites, you're just suggesting that it covers a multitude of industries. Composites is the new thing within all industries of lightweighting any product, so taking existing to lightweighting it. And yes, there is some other exciting sectors out there, but for me, no, motorsport was the most profitable. It was the most interesting. And if you look at all these other technologies or other sectors, they've all stemmed from motorsport.
Yeah.
So if you look at it, an aspect as motorsport leads innovation from the very front, because we will take a concept to delivery of part to a racetrack in the fastest, quickest time in any sector, in any industry. So hand in hand, do I want to work in the best sector, best industry there possibly is? Yes, because I know hand in hand this will only lend itself to all these other sectors down the line when and if I want to delve into those sectors, which is becoming more apparent because F1 is phenomenal. Like the business model and the structure looks like now compared to what it did 5 years ago was completely different. It is now a proper business model, but we're realising as a company, can it be sustainable? Yes, but is it really good for our business that potentially it could still become seasonal of work? Do we need to fill those pockets? So other sectors like space or military or defence or aerospace or marine, those sectors can fall into those pockets. I think once we've got settled into the new facility and stuff, we'll start looking at our business development and right, what does the next 5 to 10 years look like for the business, and what sectors will appeal to us, and how we can use our skill sets to enable us to go into those sectors.
Yeah, and of course you're literally on Silverstone circuit, so that's probably another reason why you've sort of niched down into that area.
Yeah, it was. Being born and bred Silverstone, it was always a passion of mine of being a young kid that I'll be a mechanic fixing race cars. That's what I wanted to do. But to own the building on the left as you drive into Silverstone Circuit with the name of the business that you designed and the concept of idea is second to none for me. It's like big tick in the box.
It must make it really... How do you find staffing? Because it's in such a good location, so it's a very enticing place to be. So do you find it easy getting staff, or?
Yeah, so staff, if you ask most business owners, it's one of the biggest headaches and the biggest problems, but we've done so much in the younger generation and inspiring people to work for us. Even with your guys' helps with what you do. You go with Social Room that you started a few years ago, that we realised that we've become a brand, we've become iconic, not just because we make parts for F1, it's because we've created an environment, a culture where people want to come and work for us because of those things that we've implemented into our business. So, but equally, we're open and honest on social media of how we do things and why we do things. That would be future generation, that would be why we employ people, how we employ people. So we're very fortunate. We've created a sort of a nice influx of people constantly that want to come and work for us. So we don't have that issue, but also we've got really good high retention. So we actually, when people are employed by us, they want to stay because it's a nice environment. So I think there's a lot of hard work that's gone into that, but yeah, the guys want to be with us.
Do you put, so I take it, so staffing is because I think sometimes people underestimate the concept of staff. You get different industries have a lot of turnover of staff, but staffing is so important. Without staff, you can't run your business.
Yeah, so I think there's many elements because a lot of businesses can sort of rely on like short amount of staff and some businesses don't. So as a manufacturer, we're quite high. We need staff on the shop floor to make our parts. Whereas IT or people like that is that you can probably have a small amount of team and sub out a lot of the work to consultants as and when you required your workloads, whereas we need people on the shop floor. So we're quite fortunate that we've got good retention, and we're looking to now look at using all that skill set that we've brought in, that have got the experience. We now want to use that knowledge to then drive the skill sets of younger generation up.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we discussed this before, is Silverstone Composites doesn't want to be known just for great parts or a great business, that is great people. So eventually, once these youngsters that come through our trainee program, they'll then go off into industry and work within bigger companies like the F1 teams.
Mm-hmm.
And they will be proven that they've been trained up to the highest of standards, and they'll be ready to go into those industries, and will create great people as well. We don't want to hang on to them because there's only a certain cap as our business gets to. We can only pay certain standards, or equally we can't excite them with some of the stuff that the F1 teams can do. We can, we do offer great benefits, but some and grass sometimes can be greener for others. It's each individual in our company, we want them there as long as possible. It'd be great. But equally, everybody's number one. So we do say to people, like, if there is a job and opportunity, let us know, because we want you to go and pursue the future, because we're all there. We don't want you to hold you back or pay your more money just to stay. If you feel like you're unhappy or you want to move on and we're on a new chapter, we want to push people out. We want them to go off, because guess what? We've got some youngsters that we can bring in and go on the same journey. So,
and to create that, you must have created quite a good culture within the business.
Yeah.
Can you sort of go into how you've perhaps done that over the years?
Yeah. So one of the biggest things I learned from the competitors aspect of the business was the fact that the thing I hated the most about the copy and paste thing was nobody was respected. This industry is probably one of the harshest industries from a manufacturing point of view, of where people are worked into the ground and expected to do that, to work godly hours when it comes to F1 build. So that's where the car gets built from scratch. So you've got a 3-month window from CAD design to finished products going around a racetrack. Imagine how many suppliers that are used in the UK that we're working anywhere from 60 to 120 hours a week, and these staff are expected to do it. And if they don't, then it's almost, see you, we'll get somebody else in.
Yeah.
For me, that when I was young, it was fine. I didn't have no responsibilities. It was good. I was making money, and you can do that with youngsters. But as those people grow up and they have families and kids, and they've got a bit more time and realise that it's all good making money, but if you can't actually enjoy it and have the weekends off or spend time with your loved ones in the evenings, then there didn't seem any point. And me, I had my kids when I was young, so I've got 3 kids, and I had my first 2 before I was sort of 25, before I started the business. So when I started the business, I made sure that I'd keep structured to a time. I wouldn't work past sort of 8 till 5. So I started in the morning at 8 and finished at 5. That was my sort of structure. And then if I had to, then we would plan around it to make sure it had the least impact on family life as possible. But when starting up Silverstone Composites, it was mainly to go, right, how do we still work like the other companies in terms of output, but can we work more efficiently and be more choosy on the work that we do? So we're just driving those efficiency constantly through the business, and that's what we did.
Yeah.
We became very niche in some of the subjects and parts that we did. And so then we could model our business of that. We'd work 40, 50, 60 hours maximum during a week and drive those efficiencies, so we could still be really efficient to customers, still take on good demand of work, but deliver to them on time to high quality and not affect our team morale.
Yeah.
Of overworking them, overpaying them.
Yeah.
Us profit margins reduced because we're not charging for the overtime. It's just expected. Customers go, well, we don't really pay for overtime. It's just a flat rate. And then you realise you're just doing all this, really overworking everybody just to grow the top line. But by the end of the year, you get your profit margin as a business, and you go, well, the profit's not good, but our turnover's better. And a lot of these businesses are a bit naive in regards to running a business because they don't understand it. They see the turnover and go, well, that's great. We've done better than last year. But business isn't performed off turnover. It's definitely done off profit.
Mm-hmm.
The more profitable you are as a business, the more attractive you look to potentially a buyer in the future. And people find that sort of wrong. They're always trying to grow that turnover.
Yeah.
For me, it's just growing the profit and just looking after the staff. So creating a great culture, creating structure, creating processes is vital, and keeping everybody happy. You can have happy people in a manufacturing industry. Just makes your life a lot easier.
Yeah, I think it's really important what you say, because it's a quote I said before, but I did like a quote. It says, "Turnover's vanity, profit sanity."
Yeah.
My mate's an accountant, and he told me that. And it is so, because it is so, everything's all like, wants to be flashy, and you see a lot of people, they'll walk around being really expensive stuff, but they actually have a pot to piss in.
Yeah.
And it's obviously not the same as that, but it's true. Obviously, you can have a massive turnover if your profit margins are so small, you can't really pay yourself or do anything new. You've only fallen yourself, really.
Yeah, it's so true. And I learned that very early. And again, it was going back to sort of the network thing. I had lots of people around me that just made sure that we kept to those sort of morals and that culture within the team, so we didn't grow too big, or we didn't just chase work for chasing it. And for us, we were just honest with ourselves. When work got too much, or we felt that we were taking on too much, we'd all speak as a team going, is this the time to say no now to our customers, rather than just keep saying yes? And then quality falls, delivery times go out the window, and then your customers are questioning you as a supplier. Is that we've created some wonderful relationships with our customers where we've just always been on time, always high quality, and just the biggest thing in any business is always just be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Just be honest with what you're doing. And that's the biggest lessons we learned early on.
So I watched this other podcast essentially called James Sinclair's business entrepreneurial education or something like that.
Yeah.
Basically, they always say to business owners to start with the end in mind. Did you start with the end in mind?
No, my end came probably 5-6 years into it, where I sat down with some incredible people. Steve Henson being one of them. We sat around the room going, what is the point of this business? They sit you down and how do you feel? And equally, I went through some challenging times at home with loved ones and stuff of going, what is all this hard work for? What is your achievement out of this? And for me, it was like, well, just own my own business and eventually one day pay ourselves really well and have a good life, and I'll retire when I'm 60, like everybody else. Society tells us that, and that's what we follow. So I then learn within that period of going, well, what is the point? Because actually, surely this is meant to make your life easier. All this hard work, all this risk, all this responsibility, all this stress of employing people and looking after everybody and customers. What is the purpose to it? And what I've learned is that I want to be financial freedom sort of when I'm 40. So I've got 5 years left of, say, hard graft to get to that point. And that is now my end. But I didn't realise that till probably about 4 years ago, that I'd gone through some challenging times and had to get some support and understanding. Equally, I didn't even know profit was a thing within the company. It was just, well, profit surely should be the thing all the time. And I was always ran with profit, so I didn't know any different. It was the thing for me until somebody highlighted, and then I learned how business is valued for sale. So it's your EBITDA times 4 multiplier and things. I learned all that in that very meeting and went, well, okay, that's the next challenge, next goal. Mm-hmm. And the thing is, you're saying your end. I had a goal when I was 25 to have a business that would do £1 million turnover before I was 30. Have 4 of the best F1 teams on the grid to be supplying to them. Have X amount of employees. Have the culture that we've created. Make sure people are looked after. Make sure headcount was to a minimum. And I'd set all those goals, but I'd done that in 2 years. So I achieved my goal within 2 years. So when you achieve them so quickly, you then question to yourself, well, what's next? Yeah. I really didn't have those answers, and I was going through that sort of, well, we'll just grow it and go again, which we did, and I did that in another 2 years. We doubled turnover in 2 years. Mm-hmm. So it's like, oh, this is becoming sort of really good, but I still don't know what the end looks like. So then my next goal was, can I retire or be financial freedom before I'm 40?
And what does that look like to you? Financial freedom. So
financial freedom is no longer having to worry about money. Is to get to a point where I can wake up in the morning and don't have to worry about money. And I hadn't realised money is really important in terms of your everyday stuff, of looking after your family and your mortgage and all those things. But what I do realise is time. And yes, it's financial freedom, but actually it's time freedom. Is that we have to get up to go to work 8 till 4:30 or 8 till 6. We have to do that because we've got no choice, because that's what society's told us. That's what's happened day in and day out. But as you can imagine with myself, and you've probably learned over this time, is that I don't like normal things. I don't like to follow suit, and I like to create change very quickly. And so when someone tells you can't do something, I tend to do the opposite. So somebody told me when I was 22 that I couldn't start my own business up and have it sort of doing £1 million turnover before I was 30. And I heard that a lot, even from loved ones. Said, why would you give up such a good job and do all these things as well? Not really to prove to myself, but prove to others that it can be done. And if you work hard enough and you do your homework and you get help and support and the right people around you, you can achieve anything in life. And that's what I've proved to myself and all my loved ones and all those others that sort of judged me. And then we can go one step further now. There's proof to people that you don't have to work till you're 60. You can enjoy your life. If you do want to work, it's through choice. You can wake up in the morning and go, do I want to go to work or do I have to go to work? No. What I can do now, because I've got choice, I'm not forced to. Because even owning your own business, as much as that sounds really exciting, it's going to be the hardest work you'll ever do, because it's all the risk is on you as an individual. And then you employ people, then you're responsible for their mortgages and their bills. So when shit hits the fan, you've got to pick all those pieces up. You've got to inspire that team that everything's going to be okay. It's going to be fine. They don't see that stress and that worry when you go home at night, because you walk in with a big smile on your face on a Monday morning. On a Friday, you leave with a big smile on your face, but they don't see the grey hairs and the stress and the worry that the burden it gets put on you of being a business owner.
Yeah.
They only see the wins. They only see you driving in a nice car or at home or going on a holiday for a week or two. They don't see the struggles of what you've been through to get to these points.
Yeah, I think as well, it's the fact that, once it's started and it's going and, you're 3 years in, it's not going to stop. It has to keep going, and you're employing people. And if you stop, then they're not going to eat and they're not going to do anything.
Yeah, and that's where you've got to turn yourself from when it's just been your own little thing and there's a small team to the next thing is then you have to then lead. You have to then lead and be passionate and get the same passion behind these people, but equally release responsibility, which I found really hard in my early stages of business. I was a control freak. I wanted to manage everything. I wanted to do everything because I didn't want my baby to go wrong. Yeah. But I then realised these people that are working for you actually want to help you, want to support you, and only want to do well for you or for the business. And when you realise you offer those jobs and responsibilities to others, they can do the job, hate I say it, better than yourself because you're leading them, because you're training them, you're giving them that responsibility. This all burden that you've been carrying for so long is then just taken off. And then you can focus on what you're really excited about within the business, or you want to go off and do other things so you can keep driving those directions. So one thing I learned sort of 4 years into the business was that pass responsibility, delegate as much as and quickly as possible, and find the right people that you can trust within your business that want to do that. Because my team I've got around me, is phenomenal. They run the company way better than I could, but that's because I've managed to lead by example. And they're still leading now by example of keeping the culture within the company, keeping all the same morals, doing all the same things that we started from the very beginning. And that will hopefully continue for the next 5 to 10 years.
And is there anything, any pieces of advice that you've been given, perhaps in that middle part of these 9 years, or at the beginning, that have sort of stood true throughout your time as an entrepreneur or as a business owner?
Not necessarily like advice. I think the biggest thing I learned early on from business, because a lot of people gave me support, and for me it was more soundboarding. So I knew I always had the answers in my head, but sometimes I just needed somebody that I could talk to and go, I've thought about this. What about this? And they would either give you honest feedback, or they'd go, well, I agree with you. That's a smashing idea. So the piece of advice I'd give to anybody is find those that you can trust, that you can really get some good soundboarding off. Because 9 times out of 10, because you're the business owner, because you know what you want and the path you're going on, is that you just need somebody just to give that reassurance, that pat on the back, that's a great idea. Or we'll be honest with you and go, that's a fucking crazy idea. Why would you do that? You go, well, I was so stuck in my head, I hadn't even thought about what you've just said. You'll go away and you'll be pissed off because they've almost counteracted of your idea.
Deflated, yeah.
But you'll think about it and actually go, well, I've just learned about a lesson there. So the sooner you can find somebody that can give you that honest soundboarding, I think that's probably the best advice I'd get, is because that's what's helped me so much.
And are there any sayings that that you say on a daily basis or anything like that, to do with business, to do with culture, to anything like that sort of?
I just think the biggest thing you can do when you get slightly bigger with people is treat somebody how you want to be treated. Because if you're dealing with people, if you're shouting at them, you're telling them they're wrong, or they've done this, or they turned up late, and you haven't asked the right question of why they've turned up late, and they've just given you a false answer because they're scared, is that just think everybody's human in life. Everybody's got something going on. And I think the best thing you can do is always just ask somebody what's going on in their lives, but just be cautious of what you're saying. Just treat somebody how you want to be treated. Because when I worked in other companies, I was just a number. That's how I felt like. I think if you appreciate anybody who works for you or in life, that would be a loved one, that would be a peer, that would be anybody that you gravitate towards, is that just treat them with respect. Because 9 times out of 10, you'll get the same back towards you.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Marcus, for coming on the show. That was really good.
Cheers, mate. Thank you very much.
That's all right. Thanks very much.
Done.
I'm going to just ignore the fly.
Yeah. Nearly had it.
I nearly had it a second ago.
Well, Jack, how was that?
That was very good to be fair. It was well, again, it's just really interesting to see, besides that bloody fly, it was really interesting to hear about his journey. And I would really like the concept of the investment stuff.
Yeah.
Because it's very true. When you go into business, you really, as I say, you don't know what you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And it's such a big area. I know loads more now, but before I started, I didn't have a clue about anything about that. So it's very interesting to see when you are starting from afresh what to do and what not to do.
And what I found quite interesting was that he relies a lot on trust and trusting his team, and the team trusting him to create such a good culture for his company. And that's why he has such a good retention rate and has so many people that respect him, that work for him. And it was just a fantastic episode.
Yeah.
But thank you very much for joining us.
Cheers, guys.